Good to see you again for this module. I'm excited about this module in particular because it is about mindful leadership. And I personally trained with Brene Brown around courageous leadership. And mindful leadership is courageous because we're in a society that doesn't necessarily value what it takes to be a mindful leader. I love this definition that Brene offers for us on what does it mean to be a leader. And she says, anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes, that's one part of it, and has the courage to develop that potential. I absolutely, again, love this definition. It's taken from her book, Dare to Lead. But anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes, that's what we do as educators. That is us leading. And we know that it takes courage to do so, and we show up courageously every single day. And yet, what does it mean to be a mindful leader? How do we bring this finding the potential in people and processes? How do we do that mindfully? Well, I put together this little chart about what the benefits are of mindfulness and meditation. But when I think about what it means in terms of mindful leadership, let's look at the categories of physical, emotional, and way of being. When we first look at the physical category, that's really around reducing our own stress as a leader and taking care of ourselves as a leader so that we're able to sustain and be in for the long haul and also model self-care for others. So there's that physical component of being a mindful leader that is supporting us in having less stress, but also facilitating the conditions for others to have less stress. So there's that physical component. Then there's the emotional component of mindful leadership, where we're having the self-management to avoid being derailed by stress, but yet also that inner awareness of connecting to our core values, because it's our values as a leader that impact how we lead and what we lead for. It also supports us in the emotional stamina of being resilient as a mindful leader. And I love this one because this is like leadership all day. How do we increase the emotional capacity to be with difficult emotions and build empathy and compassion? A leader is with difficult emotions all day long, managing our own, managing those of the people that we're serving, managing the parents at our schools. There's just so much that goes into managing difficult emotions. When we are a mindful leader and we practice mindfulness and meditation, we are continually building the emotional capacity and competency to be quality leaders in the fast-paced work that we have in our schools and educational organizations. So overall, we're just increasing our emotional intelligence, which is the adult version of SEL, right? Emotional intelligence and social emotional learning. Just a matter of what arena you're in, to use another Brene Brown term. And then finally, when we talk about mindful leadership in terms of our way of being, how do we want to show up as a leader and our leadership presence? Mindfulness and meditation support us as leaders in calming and focusing our energy. It allows us to be in the present moment with awareness and poise and wisdom so that we can make better decisions. That's, again, having that skillful response. And then it gives us greater insight and innovation into the adaptive challenges. It gives us that leadership know-how. And adaptive leadership is mindful leadership because adaptive challenges are always in the moment. And adaptive challenges are actually stress-inducing. because in adaptive challenges, there's uncertainty. And a lot of people don't like uncertainty. And there's a dynamic that's always constant of change and an ebb and flow. And so when you are a mindful leader, it supports you in being an adaptive leader with greater poise and greater awareness and wisdom to be responsive, not only in the moment, but those times that we need to reflect as leaders. One of the key ways, and you know that I often focus on equity and inclusion, one of the key ways that adaptive leadership is so critical to mindful leadership and in terms of how it relates to equity and inclusion is this quote by Dr. Brené Brown, where she says that people are opting out of vital conversations about diversity and inclusivity because they fear looking wrong. They fear being wrong. Choosing our own comfort over hard conversations is the epitome of privilege, and it corrodes trust and moves us away from meaningful and lasting change. To be a mindful leader, we have to lean in to the difficulties that come with leadership. To be a mindful leader, we have to be aware of our own privilege that we carry. That can be race-based privilege. It can be gender-based privilege. There's so much privilege that comes along with it. And we have to release the fear and the armor of looking wrong so that we can lean into the vulnerability of what it takes to be a mindful leader. When we talk about this in terms of language, I talked about language in one of the other modules, but I want to revisit it. And what does it look like when we are using language that is mindful, language that is inclusive? Because part of what we do, not only as teachers, but also as leaders, is that we model through our language, we model through our behavior. And so I want to just revisit and re-anchor that these language stems are important to your ways of being as a mindful leader. They're important to how we lead in our classrooms. And so mindful leadership is communicated in adaptive challenges through the quality of our language and how we're communicating. So I really can't stress that enough. I won't unpack the language stems because we've done that in another module already. I'll leave you with this, that the feeling tone and the beingness that you bring to a conversation is so important, and that we have conversations and these sentence stems that create an openness rather than a closed contraction, because we want to honor what people are bringing to conversation. We want to honor their values and viewpoints. We want to be able to bring our values and viewpoints. So when we're talking about the openness that we bring through our leadership, we want to lean into uncertainty, lean into humility. And as Brené would always say, we want to lean into curiosity. So those are things we want to bring to mindful leadership. Our meditation practice supports spaciousness. It supports self-awareness. It supports a way of being that allows us to bring those qualities into how we lead. One of the resources that you're going to get at the end of this module was created by Robin D'Angelo and Inika Naila. And they created what's called silence breakers. And so that's a tool that you can use as well that supports the beingness of your conversation, to be open, to stay curious, to lean into your own cultural humility so that we can be more mindful leaders. As we close, I want to just take you on a meditation journey. We're going to do a meditation called The Courage to Lead. And hey, you can't talk about Brené Brown and not talk about courage. So we're going to do this blend of mindfulness, leadership, and courage, and close with this meditation, The Courage to Lead. So I just invite you to be still, gaze down, or close your eyes, and just anchor to your breath, allowing your breath to just flow on the inhale and the exhale. And as you just hear me honoring that courage is about the heart. Courage and the heart are linked to love. And I want to assert that leadership is love in action. How can my courage be an expression of love? How can my mindful leadership be an expression of love? If I were a mindful leader, how would the world be better? Let's just sit with that question. If I were a mindful leader, how would the world be better? And let's just breathe into what arises. Noticing the in-breath and the out-breath. If your mind has wandered at all, just return to the breath. And now I invite you to take the vision of how you see yourself as a mindful leader. What is your posture looking like? How are you carrying yourself? How might you be walking the hallways or walking your campus? As a mindful leader, seeing yourself in this way, what do you see? How are you engaging with others? How are you greeting them? How are they responding to you? Just being with this vision, appreciating yourself for what you see and who you see. What is the feeling tone that you're emitting as a mindful leader? How are you feeling to you? And let's just take a moment to express some gratitude. Gratitude for yourself, for completing this practice, for completing these modules. Gratitude for completing the certification. It doesn't matter if it took you several months, several weeks, or just a few days. Your journey to mindful leadership and mindfulness-based SEL is your journey. And we are so thankful that you made this journey with us. And maybe taking your hand over your heart just to honor yourself. And recognizing that you are part of a community of other mindful leaders and other mindful teachers and practitioners that value this work, value showing up for kids in this way. Knowing that COSM is always here for you in this way. And I invite you to open your eyes. And I just get to look at you and just see how much I appreciate you. And I thank you. I thank you. And the students to come, thank you.